Dean Phillips went on MSNBC here. Now, by the way, this is really interesting because MSNBC, CNN, most of the mainstream liberal networks, right, the ones that are more partial to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they would not have these people on. They would not have on Dean Phillips. They would not have on Marianne Williamson. It was rarely, if ever, that they were allowed on when they announced their campaigns and they were running. Now that Biden absolutely crushed in both New Hampshire and South Carolina, now they're like, welcome to the show. And it's like, well, why is that? Gee, I wonder, right? Gee, I wonder. Hey, they're already guaranteed to be no threat anymore, so let's invite them on and like humiliate them. And that's kind of what happens here. This is the Dean Phillips humiliation tour, right? But I got many mixed emotions about what we're about to see. So you have Simone Sanders, Michael Steele, who's a former Republican now. He's sort of like a Democratic partisan on MSNBC, and some random MSNBC host. And it's like they're going to try to do like an intervention here for Dean Phillips, right? Let's watch it. Let's break it down as we go. There's a lot of stuff here that is just infuriating. Let's dive in.
So the chairman in me.
the strategist and the chairman, yes.
The chairman in me says, what the hell are you doing? Sure. Right? And why are you doing it? Because the reality of it is the party had a chance in 2016 and in 2020 to make a different choice. All right? They did not choose Hillary. And in 2020, they had Joe Biden standing in front of them, and along with an array of other Democratic candidates, including the current vice president. And the party said no. So what makes you think that after that, with an incumbent president, Joe Biden's not going anywhere? He's not stepping down.
Big mistake, by the way. Big
matter of opinion, but individuals make their choice. Sure. And in the process of making the choice to stay in the game, 97% of that 4% that turned out voted for him. So the question becomes, in reality, are you creating a drain in the process, prolonging the narratives around his age, prolonging the narratives around other things that people are distracted by with Joe Biden, when the real threat is the man across the aisle in Donald Trump? And the polling shows at the end of the day, Donald Trump is going to lose to Joe Biden. Second final point on that. This is 2020.
By the way, that is not what the polls show right now. It's quite the opposite at the moment.
This is not 2016. It's not even 2008. Right. Very different race, very different electorate. That's the other thing to keep in mind, that we've already seen an indication from the base of both parties where they want to go in 2022. When democracy and the threat is in front of them, the economy and all the other concerns take a little bit of a backstep. So how do you sauce all of that narratively going forward when, as you tweet it, you're getting whooped?
Someone's got to do it.
So, look, before he answers, let me say this. I would have no problem with a question on, process. What's going on here? Why are you doing this? And it ain't going so well. First of all, they should have had on Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson all the time. When they're actually running and have a chance, they didn't do that on purpose. Okay? But I'd be okay, given the facts on the ground of what happened now in South Carolina and New Hampshire, I'm okay with the process question. The problem is, if you go watch this whole interview, and we're not, because it's a long interview, I'm only showing you part of it here. Every question is a process question. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, he's so strong. Oh, he's inevitable. Oh, get out of the way. Everything is like that. And what should be obvious to everybody is, if you're the media, it's incumbent on you to be like, how are you different from Joe Biden policy-wise? Where do you think Joe Biden is failing when it comes to policy, and where would you improve when it comes to policy? What criticisms do you have of him? What do you think he's done that's good? Like, if they were serious, it would be, what are the substantive differences between you and Joe Biden, right? Why do you think you'd make a better president? Like, it would be all substance and nuance and detail and policy. But we don't get any of that. There's nothing asked about policy here. So, in other words, the whole vibe of the whole show is this smug, like, get over it and get out of the way. And it's like, yeah, well, we see through you. That's why you had on Dean Phillips after it was already clear he's not going to win, right? That's why you didn't have him on before, because God forbid you give anybody not named Joe Biden a fair chance and hear them out on policy and hear them out on strategy and take them seriously. They made a choice to not take them seriously, and now after the fact, when they can't win, They bring him on to be like, yeah, you should get out of the way.
My friends, I know every conversation you all have privately. It's probably the same ones I'm having with my colleagues, which is we're dumbfounded. And yes, he's got a commanding lead in the primaries. I get it. But look at the numbers. He is in a terrible position. The
Which numbers? Can we talk about the numbers? Let's be specific.
Well, first of all, let's talk about historical approval numbers. He's in the 30s. No one's ever won re-election with numbers like
let's
that.
talk about the voters.
Let's talk about the 7. Yes. Just forget national numbers. It doesn't matter. 7 battleground states where he is, at least in the last Bloomberg poll, behind in every single one.
That's true, and the MSNBC people don't have an actual response to that. It's just like, we think he'll be Trump for sure. But you don't actually know that.
We're living in this bubble here in Washington. When you get out around this country, as I've been doing, my goodness, it is shocking. And by the way, I'm going to wake everybody up right now. Donald Trump is listening to people. He gets it. The border chaos is absolutely front and center amongst Democrats who cannot believe that Democrats here in Washington are denying it and have been for years. Costs are
Except they had an opportunity. They had an opportunity.
In the last number of months,
and Republicans decided to bungle
it. Of course. But all I'm saying is that Donald Trump is listening. The man is a disaster for this country. We know it. And he is beating, in every meaningful poll in the battlegrounds, he is beating Joe Biden. And frankly, the country's made up his mind about his age. I'm just going to be forthright with all of you. All of the talk about the past, wonderful bills that I voted for and helped market. I was a member of House Democratic leadership. Infrastructure bill, CHIPS Act, Inflation Reduction Act, great investments in America. Americans are really suffering right now. 60% living paycheck to paycheck, 40% don't have $400 in the bank. And here we have the president and our party saying GDP growth is up, job growth is great. People are frustrated and they are fearful and they're seeing wars around the world. If we wake up, and my mission is to wake us up, I respect Joe Biden. He should have passed the torch. There are wonderful next generation candidates ready to go. I called them to inspire them. This was not a mission for me, but someone had to do this. And I'm simply saying the quiet part out loud. This is not a mission of antagonism. I'm not pointing out anything, Michael, that is not clear and present and obvious. This notion of encapsulating him, don't debate, don't appear in front of voters, don't do anything unscripted, don't do interviews, don't do town halls. He's going to have to. And when people see it, it's going to be really difficult to overcome. And I only ran for Congress the morning after the 2016 election. My 16-year-old daughter was in her bedroom crying. She had just overcome cancer. She's a gay woman. I didn't know it at the time. I saw fear in her eyes like I'd never seen in my kids' eyes. I had to do something. I promised them I would. I ran for Congress, flipped a 60-year Republican district blue.
You were a very popular congressman.
And I lost that popularity. But my point is, I know how to win in red districts. I know what's going on with Trump's attraction, which is getting stronger, not weaker. And I'm trying to inspire our party
win the blue
to wake up.
You revoked your congressional seat. And so I do want to ask you, because since the start of this primary challenge, you've missed about 90% of your floor votes. And I wonder what you say to the constituents you currently serve about that choice.
I'll say another quiet part out loud. The people that really matter in these enterprises are staff, underpaid, hardworking, extraordinary young Americans who are taking care of all of our case files, all the constituent services that make the most difference in the world.
So, look, the guy just got destroyed, came in third in the South Carolina primary, and these are the questions I had. It was all process, like, what are you doing, why are you doing it? And then it's, oh, you missed 90% of your votes since you've been running for president. And it says on the bottom of the screen here, Representative Phillips has missed 170 plus votes since announcement. So they didn't have him on to give him a fair shot when he was actually running and had a chance. Now they're just like mocking him. And look, he is sort of subjecting himself to this now too, right? It is like the Dean Phillips humiliation tour. That's what we're watching. But like, I don't know, it just all feels so hopeless. It all feels so hopeless now. A lot of the points he's making about Biden are totally true. I mean, we'll talk about this tomorrow. There's a new poll out on Biden's biggest weakness. And it really does look, at the end of the day, when all's said and done, it really does look like the age thing is huge. The age thing is like the biggest thing to voters. And like, if only the media could have taken the Biden challenger seriously. Now, by the way, even if they did, it's very possible Biden still would have won, right? Because the people who actually go and vote are voting for Biden. That's possible, but to have a fair, honest process is so important to democracy. And the party that likes to suck itself off about being pro-democracy is snuffing out democracy. And that hypocrisy is something it's hard to get past, isn't it? The fact that the DNC is canceling 4 different primaries in states, like, we're just going to say he doesn't have any challengers. Well, okay, but then you can't turn around when you're running against Trump and be like, we're the defenders of democracy. You are in certain contexts, and in other contexts, when it's convenient for you, you're the crushers of democracy. Jesus Christ.
Your votes don't matter?
Of course my votes matter. And Hakeem Jeffries knows very well, and I made the promise. Any vote of great consequence he needs me for, I'll be back for. That's what I'm here.
Vote, though.
That he needs me for.
Okay.
Look, folks, look, I activated, like millions of Americans, because of Donald Trump. I was in the chamber on January 6th because of Donald Trump. Now he's walking back to the White House. I know most people know this. I know most people feel it. And yes, there's a chance Joe Biden could win. But in 2020, I think he was the only one that could. In 2024, he's probably one of the only ones that can't. And I'm not going to be quiet. My legacy might be.
That part is actually true. A generic Democrat polls 13 points over Trump. Biden is losing to Trump by like 1 or 2 points, maybe 3 on average. The
blessing I want to share with my kids in this country is you don't just shush up and stay in line and be quiet when our country needs people, especially the best and brightest, most talented, most proximate, and they didn't stand up. So someone had to do it. Whether it's me or not, we'll decide. But I'm going to continue this mission because somebody has to inspire people to do what's really important instead of being quiet at a time we need to be loud. That's
I know
my
we
only
have
contention.
to go. One last question. So, one, what is the red line for you to drop out of this race? And two,
literally all process. Every single thing is process. Every single thing is about process. They didn't interview him. They didn't interview Marianne Williamson when they were running. They didn't take them seriously. They didn't get into policy at all. Didn't give them a fair shot, even a little bit. Now that it's true they can't win, it's why aren't you dropping out? You should drop out. You should have dropped out yesterday. What are you doing? Why'd you miss all these votes? What's going on here? It's just the media is it's just so dishonest. Again, guys, even in a scenario where they did take Marianne Williamson and they did take Dean Phillips seriously, it's very possible Biden would have won and would have won comfortably. But at least in that scenario, you could look at the process and say this was a fair, legitimate process and everybody had a chance and they just didn't win. But that's not the world we live in. The world we live in is, they rig it, they rub it in your face, they don't take anybody else seriously. Then after it's clear they're going to lose, they bring them on to humiliate them. And I don't know why Dean Phillips is playing along with that. And I don't know why he's staying in, but apparently he's staying in. I genuinely don't get why he would do that.
You are not successful, which the numbers currently say you will not be. Will you endorse and support and work to elect Joe Biden?
So here's the mission. I'm trying to build a model for Democrats to invite Americans to join us. We've lost huge swaths of this country because we stopped paying attention to them. Former President Trump is paying attention. I'm going to invite independents. I'm going to invite Republicans. I showed up at a MAGA rally just to say hi. I was greeted with decency and friendliness from 50 people waiting in the cold in New Hampshire. Many of them voted for Barack Obama. Many of them Bernie Sanders supporters. Many of them had never been to a Trump rally before. So I want to make a model for Democrats how we can win. I flipped a 60-year red district. We got to use invitation. And if I can demonstrate that over the coming months, we'll see polls that will present data to every Democratic voter and conventioneers. Who's best positioned to beat Donald Trump? It might be Joe Biden. It might be me. Maybe somebody else will enter. But I think we have to inspire options for voters, and we're suppressing that right now. That's my contention. And the fact that you afforded me 5-10 minutes to at least express that to Democrats who have not heard that message makes me very grateful.
He actually didn't answer the question. The question was like, when, if ever, would you drop out and would you endorse Biden? That was the question, and he didn't answer it. All right. And I don't know how I feel about the whole, like, you already got sort of blown out, and then you're out here saying, oh, Trump gets it. And actually his people are great. And it's like, if you're really trying to win the Democratic primary, you would be like maybe going on a jihad against Trump for his 91 criminal charges and the fact he tried to steal the last election and, try to portray him as out of bounds, off the table, no reasonable person to support him. But anyway, look, there you have it. This was kind of humiliating for Dean Phillips, but as much as I think it's embarrassing for him, I also hold so much contempt for the media because they just didn't give any of Biden's challengers a fair shot. They just didn't do it. And that's sort of inexcusable, even though I think Biden probably would have won even if everybody else did get a fair shot. It's sort of inexcusable because then it just shows all the talk about like, the Republicans are anti-democracy and they're authoritarian. It's like, and you embrace a lot of those qualities too to try to do the party's bidding. And in this case, that's propping up Joe Biden till the end of time. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.